Hey, everybody. Welcome to day 5 of our march toward Easter. And today we are in Matthew chapter 5. It's a little bit longer one, but we're entering into the Sermon on the Mount, otherwise known at the beginning of it as the Beatitudes. We encourage you to follow us along, utilize your journal. You can do the reading on your own, or you can listen along with me, and I'll give you a few thoughts at the end of this passage. So without further ado, let's jump into Matthew chapter 5. Now when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him, and he began to teach them. He said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything, except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law of the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. Therefore, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commandments and teaches others accordingly will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, 'You shall not murder,' and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, 'Raka,' is answerable to the court. And anyone who says, 'You fool,' will be in danger of the fire of hell. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother and sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you are still together on the way, or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. Truly I tell you, you will not get out until every penny has been paid. You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go to hell. It has been said, 'Anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce.' But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, makes her the victim of adultery. Anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again, you have heard that it was said to the people long ago, 'Do not break your oath, but fulfill to the Lord the vows you have made.' But I tell you, do not swear an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make even one hair white or black. All you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. Matthew chapter 5. Wow, there's a lot in here. This being Jesus' famous Sermon on the Mount, his beginning sermon. And so what do we pull from this? And I think if we start with the very last verse, it gives us a little bit of a picture. Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. Now, we have to ask ourselves, is it possible for us to be perfect? And we know that answer. It's no. We can't be perfect unless Jesus ultimately makes us perfect by his death, sacrifice, and forgiveness. That's how we end up entering into heaven, is because God sees us perfect because of the sacrifice of his perfect Son. But other than that, we know that we're messed up. We're sinning. We're awful beings in so many ways because we always fall victim or prey to our desires or to the temptations of this world. So how do we end up living a perfect life? I think we have to look at the heart of this passage. It gives us glimpses when he talks about adultery, for instance. And it says if you're going to be lusting over someone, go pluck your eye out. And so we look at some of these passages and we say, well, we've got to do all of this, but nobody's going around plucking their eyes out because they looked lustfully at a woman. I don't see too many blind guys walking around this world. I don't see something that says your hand offends you. I don't see people walking around with just stumps because they cut their hands off. We realize that this is hyperbole, but we take everything else as though it is verbatim to the I and to the crossing of the T. I think ultimately what we see here is Jesus takes things and he's upping the level of it. You heard it said this, but I'm telling you this. And he ups the ante, he ups the bar. And I think he's saying, this is what the letter of the law was, and this is what you're following, but you don't understand the spirit of the law. You're not understanding God's heart behind it. Later on, it says, if someone asks you to go 1 mile, go 2 miles. It's the idea that we go above and beyond as Christians to love those that are around us because God has so richly loved us. So we can get caught up in the exact phrasing here, and I think there's a lot that is in here that we need to pay close attention to. But we need to be looking at what it is that we need to be doing in our own life. Instead of looking at every single little phrase of, am I measuring up? It's not, am I measuring up? Am I doing things exactly right? Am I going above and beyond? Am I going above and beyond to try to fulfill this righteousness? And when we do that, God looks at us with proud eyes because he knows that we are giving it our all. So today I just want to challenge you as you go through, and maybe you take a little extra time in your journaling, as you see through some of these things, talking about anger even, murder. I don't think too many of us are struggling with murder, but there's murder, there's anger, there's lust, there's adultery, there's divorce, there's keeping your oath and making sure that you have a life of integrity. All of these things, what is it maybe that we need to up the ante in our own life so that, as it says earlier, in the same way, let your light shine before others that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. That we live our lives differently enough that they say, how she did that's different. How he did that is different than what I see in the world. There's something different about them. They're not just going about things as everybody else does. They're living their lives differently, and I want to know why. I think that's a lot of the heart behind what we should be trying to grasp out of this passage. Thanks for joining us. Remember, today's a good day to make it a great one. Take care.